Captain Jake Morrison stood at the large viewing window of his ship, watching the busy space traffic around Zentara Prime. Ships from 12 different worlds moved in organized patterns around the massive space station that served as the heart of the Galactic Federation. His own vessel, the New Horizon, looked small compared to the giant warships of other species. But that was exactly how Earth wanted it. "Captain, we're receiving the final call for the council session," said Dr. Lisa Kane, walking up beside him. She carried a datapad filled with notes about the different alien species they would be addressing today. "Are you ready for this?" Jake nodded slowly, as ready as anyone can be to deliver news that nobody wants to hear. He turned away from the window and walked toward the shuttle bay. "Have you finished your analysis of their behavior patterns?" Lisa followed him, her shoes clicking on the metal floor. "Yes, and it's not good. The Korthak Empire has been testing boundaries for months. They're seeing how far they can push before anyone fights back. The problem is most Federation species are too afraid or too weak to stand up to them." They entered the small shuttle that would take them to the main station. As the pilot, Lieutenant Sam Parker, started the engines, Jake reviewed his speech one more time. Earth had been part of the Galactic Federation for 50 years now, and in all that time humans had played the role of peaceful helpers. They provided medical aid, shared technology, and helped solve disputes between other species. Most aliens saw humans as soft and harmless. That was about to change. The shuttle docked at Zentara Prime's main port. Jake and Lisa walked through hallways filled with beings from across the galaxy. Tall, blue-skinned Altarians moved gracefully past short, furry Velari. The insect-like Zephyrians clicked and buzzed as they discussed trade agreements. All of them seemed calm and relaxed, unaware of the growing danger that threatened their peaceful lives. The Federation Council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle for representatives from all member worlds. Jake took his place at the human section, a modest area that reflected Earth's supposedly minor role in galactic affairs. Dr. Kane sat beside him, quietly observing the other delegates. The council session began with routine business. Trade disputes were discussed and resolved. New exploration missions were approved. Everything seemed normal until the topic of the Korthak Empire came up. Chancellor Vorth, the elderly leader of the Altarian delegation, spoke first. "The Korthak have expanded into 3 more systems this month. They claim these are liberation missions to bring order to primitive worlds. But we all know what that really means." "It means slavery and strip mining," said Ambassador Trell of the Velari, her soft voice filled with sadness. "My people have received refugees from the conquered worlds. The stories they tell are horrible. Entire populations forced into labor camps. Planets drained of all resources until nothing but dead rock remains." Jake listened as representative after representative expressed concern about Korthak aggression, but none offered real solutions. They spoke of economic sanctions and diplomatic protests, measures that had already proven useless against an empire that only understood strength. Finally, Chancellor Vorth called on Jake to present Earth's position. He stood slowly, feeling the weight of what he was about to say. Every eye in the chamber focused on him, many showing barely hidden amusement. Humans were known for their diplomatic speeches and peaceful solutions. Nobody expected anything different this time. "Fellow delegates," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's speakers. "Earth has watched the Korthak expansion with growing concern. For 50 years, we have chosen the path of peace, believing that cooperation and understanding could solve any problem." Several delegates nodded approvingly. This sounded like typical human idealism. "However," Jake continued, his tone becoming more serious, "there comes a point where peaceful methods are no longer enough. Earth has decided that if the Korthak Empire continues its aggressive expansion, we will be forced to reconsider our current operational parameters." The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background humming of the station's systems seemed to pause. Dr. Kane watched the other delegates carefully, noting their reactions. Most looked confused or dismissive. A few seemed concerned, but not because they took the threat seriously. They were worried about what this might mean for trade agreements and diplomatic relations. General Vex Thalnor, the Korthak representative, stood up from his section. He was a massive creature, nearly 8 feet tall with thick armor-like skin and glowing red eyes. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. "The Korthak Empire trembles before the mighty threat of human displeasure," he said, his words dripping with sarcasm. Perhaps you will defeat us with strongly worded letters and peaceful protests. We are so frightened of your merchant ships and medical vessels." Laughter echoed through parts of the chamber. Even some Federation delegates seemed amused by the exchange. Humans had never shown any significant military capability. Their ships were designed for exploration and trade. Their weapons were minimal, meant only for protection against pirates and asteroids. Jake remained calm, but Dr. Kane noticed his hands clenched slightly behind his back. "General Thalner, I hope for everyone's sake that such measures will never be necessary. Earth prefers peace to war, cooperation to conflict. But make no mistake, we are prepared for either." The Korthak general laughed, a harsh sound that made several smaller delegates cringe. Soft mammals making bold promises. Your species would not last a day against the might of the Korthak fleet. Perhaps when we have finished with the Valari and their healing technology, we will visit your little blue world and show you what real power looks like. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps. Threatening a Federation member world directly was against every treaty and agreement that held their civilization together. But Thalner seemed unconcerned by the reaction. He sat back down with a satisfied expression, clearly pleased with the fear he had created. Jake looked around the chamber, seeing the faces of beings who had grown too comfortable with safety. They had forgotten what it was like to face a real threat. "In that case, General, I can only repeat Earth's warning. We have been holding back, hoping that wisdom would prevail. If you force our hand, you will discover exactly what we have been holding back from." As Jake and Dr. Kane returned to their shuttle, Lisa shook her head sadly. They didn't take it seriously. None of them understand what they're about to unleash. "That's their choice," Jake replied, settling into his seat as Lieutenant Parker prepared for departure. "We gave them fair warning. What happens next is up to them." Back on Earth, Admiral Pete Jackson received Jake's full report within hours. He read it twice, then walked to his secure communication console and entered a code that had not been used in 50 years. "This is Admiral Jackson," he said to the encrypted channel. "Authorization Alpha 77. Begin Protocol 7 implementation immediately. The time for restraint is ending." Across human space, hidden facilities began powering up systems that had been dormant for decades. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity looked like when they stopped playing nice. 6 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison delivered Earth's warning to the Galactic Federation. In that time, the Korthak Empire had grown bolder, taking 2 more star systems and enslaving their populations. The Federation's response had been predictably weak. Its economic sanctions that the Korthak ignored and diplomatic protests that fell on deaf ears. Colonel Amy Ross stood in the briefing room of a facility that officially did not exist. Hidden deep within an asteroid belt in the Tau Ceti system, the base had been operational for 30 years without any alien government knowing about it. Around her sat 20 of humanity's most elite soldiers, all listening intently as she outlined their mission parameters. "The Valari homeworld is next on the Korthak target list," she said, pointing to a holographic display showing the peaceful planet. "Intelligence indicates the attack will begin within 72 hours. The Federation Council is still debating whether to send a fact-finding mission to investigate the threat." Lieutenant Sam Parker, now transferred to Special Operations, raised his hand. "What about Captain Morrison's diplomatic vessel? Isn't the New Horizon still in that sector?" Amy nodded grimly. "Captain Morrison has been ordered to maintain his position and observe. His ship isn't equipped for combat, and officially Earth doesn't have any combat-capable vessels in the area." She paused, letting that sink in. Officially. Dr. Eric Stone, the base's chief weapons engineer, activated another hologram showing sleek, angular ships, unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "The Wraith-class fighters are ready for deployment. Stealth capabilities are at 100%, and the new plasma lance weapons have exceeded all testing parameters." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the New Horizon, Jake Morrison watched the peaceful blue and green world of Valara rotating slowly below. Dr. Lisa Kane stood beside him, reviewing the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. "The Korthak fleet just entered the system," she said quietly. 15 heavy cruisers and 3 dreadnoughts. "The Valari don't have any significant defenses." Jake clenched his jaw. The Valari were among the most peaceful species in the galaxy. Their entire civilization was built around healing and helping others. They had developed medical technologies that could cure diseases thought incurable and heal injuries that would normally be fatal. Now they were about to be slaughtered by an empire that saw mercy as weakness. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Ryan Davis from his station. "We're receiving a transmission from the Korthak flagship." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. General Vex Thalnor appeared on the main viewer, his red eyes glowing with satisfaction. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of a massive warship bristling with weapons. "Captain Morrison, how convenient that you are here to witness the next step in Korthak expansion. General Thalnor, the Volari are a peaceful people. They pose no threat to your empire. There's no reason for this attack." The Korthak general laughed. "No reason? They possess medical technology that will be useful to us. Their world contains rare minerals that we need. And most importantly, they exist in space that should belong to the Korthak Empire." His expression turned cruel. "You may watch, human. Consider it an educational experience. When we are finished here, perhaps we will visit your homeworld and provide the same lesson." The transmission ended. Jake stood in silence for a moment, then walked to his private quarters and activated a secure communication channel that connected directly to Admiral Pete Jackson's office on Earth. "Admiral, this is Morrison. The Korthak fleet is beginning their attack on Valara. Request permission to intervene." The response came back immediately. "Negative, Captain. Your ship is not equipped for combat against a fleet that size. Maintain your position and document everything. That's an order." Jake understood the logic, but it didn't make it any easier to watch. The Korthak ships moved into attack formation around Valara, beginning their bombardment of the planet's few defensive installations. The peaceful world had no military to speak of, only a small security force meant to deal with accidents and natural disasters. Dr. Kane was monitoring communications from the planet's surface. "Jake, you need to hear this," she said, her voice tight with emotion. She played an audio transmission from Valara's capital city. "This is Chancellor Mora of the Volari Council," came a gentle, musical voice. "To anyone who can hear this message, we are under attack. We have done nothing to provoke this aggression. We ask only for the right to exist in peace. If anyone in the galaxy still believes in protecting the innocent, please help us." The transmission was cut off by an explosion. Jake could see fires burning on the planet's surface as Korthak ground forces landed in the major cities. Reports began flooding in of civilians being rounded up and executed. Children torn from their parents' arms. Hospitals being destroyed with patients still inside. "Sir," Ryan Davis called out urgently, "General Thalnor is broadcasting something on all frequencies." The main screen lit up again, showing Thalnor standing in what appeared to be Valara's main hospital. Around him, Korthak soldiers were forcing Volari doctors and nurses to their knees. In the center of the group was an elderly Volari wearing robes that marked him as the planet's spiritual leader. "I am General Vex Thalnor of the Korthik Empire," the monster announced to the galaxy. This pathetic world thought that weakness would protect them. They believed that healing others would earn them mercy. Today they learned the price of that foolishness. Jake watched in horror as Thalnor drew his sidearm and placed it against the old Volari's head. "Let this be a lesson to all who would stand against the Korthak Empire. There is no safety in weakness. There is no protection in peace." The execution was broadcast live across every communication channel in the galaxy. The gentle being who had spent his life healing others died on his knees, surrounded by his people's conquerors. Dr. Kane was crying openly now. "We can't just watch this happen." Jake looked at his crew, seeing the same anger and determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. These were good people who had joined Earth's space service to explore and help others. Now they were being forced to watch genocide while their hands were tied by orders and politics. "Admiral Jackson was very specific about our orders," Jake said slowly. "We are to maintain our position and document everything." He paused, letting his words sink in. He didn't say anything about what we should do if we happened to encounter Volari refugees who needed emergency medical assistance. Understanding dawned on his crew's faces. Ryan Davis was already working at his console. "Sir, I'm detecting several escape pods and small civilian craft fleeing the planet. They appear to be suffering from various technical difficulties that are preventing them from reaching safe hyperspace coordinates." "Medical emergency," Dr. Kane added, catching on quickly. "Those refugees will need immediate assistance." Jake nodded. "Lieutenant Parker, plot a course to intercept those refugee vessels. Emergency speed." The New Horizon, officially a diplomatic vessel, moved with surprising speed toward the fleeing Volari ships. What the galaxy didn't know was that every human ship, no matter how peaceful it appeared, had been built with hidden capabilities. The diplomatic vessel could outrun most military craft if needed. Over the next 6 hours, Jake's crew managed to evacuate nearly 3,000 Valari civilians from the dying world. They used the ship's advanced medical facilities to treat the wounded and provided food and shelter for families who had lost everything. But even as they saved who they could, Jake knew it wasn't enough. Millions of Valari had died, and the few thousand they rescued were all that remained of a civilization that had existed for thousands of years. As the New Horizon prepared to leave the system with its refugees, General Thalner appeared on screen one final time. "Impressive, Captain Morrison. You saved a handful while millions died. Is this the great power that Earth threatened us with? Pathetic rescue missions?" Jake looked directly into the alien's glowing red eyes. "General, you wanted to see what humans do when we stop playing nice. Congratulations. You're about to find out." On Earth, Admiral Pete Jackson received Jake's full report of the Valara massacre. He read it once, then walked to his office window and looked out at the blue sky of his homeworld. Somewhere up there, hidden among the stars, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was waiting for his orders. He picked up his secure communication device and spoke 3 words that would change everything. "Release the wolves." General Katie Brooks stood on the command deck of what appeared to be a standard cargo freighter, drifting in the empty space between star systems. The ship's hull was scarred and dirty, with faded markings that identified it as the merchant vessel Lucky Strike. Any casual observer would see nothing more than another human trading ship making its way through the galaxy. They would be completely wrong. "Admiral Jackson's authorization has been confirmed," reported Commander Ryan Davis, who had been transferred from the New Horizon for this mission. "Operation Prometheus is officially active. All units are standing by for your orders." Katie nodded, walking to the center of the bridge. Around her, what had looked like a simple cargo hold began to transform. Hidden panels slid away to reveal advanced tactical displays, weapon control stations, and communication arrays that could coordinate fleet movements across dozens of star systems. "Send the activation signal to all units," she ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what we've really been building out here." Across human space, similar transformations were taking place. Merchant ships revealed hidden weapon systems. Mining stations deployed massive gun batteries. Research facilities activated defensive shields that could withstand planet-killing weapons. The peaceful, harmless humans that other species had grown accustomed to were shedding their disguise. Lieutenant Sam Parker sat in the cockpit of his Wraith-class fighter, reviewing the mission parameters one final time. His target was a Korthak supply depot in the Kepler system, a heavily defended facility that provided weapons and equipment to their expanding fleet. According to all available intelligence, it was impossible to attack without suffering massive casualties. The Korthak were about to learn that human intelligence was often incomplete on purpose. "Ghost Squadron, this is Control," came Colonel Amy Ross's voice through his headset. "You are cleared for Phase 1 operations. Remember, we want them to know who hit them, but not how we did it." "Understood, Control. Ghost Squadron beginning approach." Sam's fighter, along with 11 others, engaged their stealth systems and simply vanished from all known forms of detection. The Wraith-class ships didn't just hide from sensors. They could actually shift partially out of normal space, making them impossible to track or target with conventional weapons. The Korthak supply depot was a massive structure built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. It was surrounded by defensive platforms, patrol ships, and enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The base's commander, General Kex Vorthak, was confident that nothing could threaten his position. That confidence lasted exactly 12 minutes. Ghost Squadron materialized inside the depot's defensive perimeter, appearing as if from nowhere. Before the Korthak defenders could even begin to react, the human fighters opened fire with their plasma lance weapons. The energy beams cut through the depot's shields as if they didn't exist, slicing into the station's core systems. "What is happening?" General Vorthak screamed at his tactical officer. "Where did those ships come from?" "Unknown, General. They appeared on our sensors for only seconds, fired, then vanished again. Our defensive systems cannot lock onto them." The first explosion tore through the depot's main reactor. The second destroyed the ammunition storage. By the time the third hit the command center, General Vorthak was floating in space, watching his supposedly impregnable base tear itself apart from the inside. Sam Parker's fighter reappeared in normal space just long enough to broadcast a message on all Korthak frequencies. "This is Lieutenant Sam Parker of the Earth Defense Force. Your supply depot has been destroyed. This is what happens when you threaten peaceful worlds. Earth remembers Valara." Then the fighters vanished again, leaving nothing but wreckage and very confused Korthak survivors. Similar attacks were happening simultaneously across Korthak space. Their secure communication networks were being invaded by Dr. Helen Wright's cyber warfare specialists, who had been monitoring alien computer systems for decades. Korthak fleet movements were being tracked by sensors they didn't know existed. Their weapons shipments were being intercepted by ships that appeared out of nowhere. But the most shocking revelation came when Captain Nick Taylor's merchant vessel encountered a Korthak dreadnought, threatening a human colony. The massive warship, the Destroyer of Worlds, was one of the Korthak Empire's most feared vessels. It was 3 kilometers long, armed with enough weapons to level continents, and had never been defeated in battle. When it dropped out of hyperspace near the human colony of New Geneva, the local defense force prepared to evacuate as many civilians as possible before the inevitable slaughter. Captain Taylor had other plans. "This is Captain Nick Taylor of the cargo vessel Peaceful Trader to Korthak warship," he broadcast on open channels. "You are threatening a civilian population. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The response from the dreadnought was predictable. "Pathetic human, your cargo ship will be destroyed in seconds. Surrender now and we may allow some of your people to live as slaves." "I tried to be polite," Nick said to his crew. "Activate combat configuration." The Peaceful Trader began to change. Cargo bay doors opened to reveal massive weapon systems. The ship's hull expanded as hidden armor plating deployed. What had appeared to be a simple freighter was revealed as something else entirely, a human warship designed to look harmless until the moment it needed to fight. "This is the HSS Liberty," Nick announced, using the ship's real name for the first time in years. "You have 10 seconds to withdraw from this system." The Korthak commander laughed and ordered his ship to open fire. Every weapon on the massive dreadnought targeted the human vessel, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The plasma lance beam that answered back cut the Korthak ship in half. The Destroyer of Worlds, pride of the Korthak fleet, split down the middle and exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. The entire engagement had lasted less than 30 seconds. On Zentara Prime, the Galactic Federation Council was in emergency session. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy about impossible human military capabilities. Ships that could appear and disappear at will. Weapons that cut through any known defense. A merchant fleet that was apparently a disguised armada. Ambassador Maria Lopez, Earth's new representative to the Federation, stood calmly at the human section as chaos erupted around her. Other delegates were shouting questions, making accusations, and demanding explanations. Some species were terrified that humanity had been lying to them for decades. Others were relieved that such power existed to face the Korthak threat. "Order! Order!" Chancellor Vorth called out, trying to restore calm to the chamber. "Ambassador Lopez, the Council demands an explanation for these military actions. The Federation was told that Earth possessed only minimal defensive capabilities." Maria smiled politely. "Chancellor, Earth has never lied to this Council. We told you we possessed defensive capabilities. We simply never specified how extensive those capabilities were." "You've been deceiving us for 50 years, accused the Altarian delegate. "We've been preparing," Maria corrected. While other species focused on trade and politics, humanity never forgot that the galaxy can be a dangerous place. We hoped we would never need to reveal our true capabilities. But recent events have forced our hand. General Vex Thalner's image appeared on the chamber's main screen, broadcasting from his flagship somewhere in Korthak space. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by barely controlled rage. "Humans, you think your tricks and deceptions make you powerful? The Korthak Empire has fleets that will darken your skies. We will show you what real warfare looks like." Admiral Pete Jackson's voice came through the chamber's speakers, calm and professional. General Thalner, for 50 years Earth has operated at approximately 15% of our actual military capacity. You wanted to see what we look like when we stop holding back. Congratulations. You're about to find out. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. 15%. Everything they had just witnessed, the impossible ships, the devastating weapons, the military precision that had dismantled Korthak forces across the galaxy, was only a fraction of humanity's true power. Dr. Lisa Kane, now serving as a military advisor, activated a holographic display showing the current tactical situation. Red markers indicated Korthak positions throughout the galaxy. Blue markers showed human forces. The Korthak had been confident in their superior numbers and firepower. They were about to learn that sometimes quality matters more than quantity. The age of Korthak expansion is over, Admiral Jackson announced to the galaxy. Any species that continues to threaten civilian populations will face the full military might of Earth. We gave you fair warning. You chose not to listen, General I. Katie Brooks looked out at the stars from her command ship, now revealed in its true configuration as one of humanity's most advanced dreadnoughts. Across the galaxy, the human fleet was moving into position for the final phase of Operation Prometheus. The Korthak Empire had started this war by attacking the innocent. Humanity was going to finish it. Ambassador Maria Lopez walked through the corridors of Zentara Prime, feeling the weight of every stare from the alien beings she passed. Word had spread quickly through the station about humanity's military capabilities, and the reactions were as varied as the species themselves. Some looked at her with fear, others with respect, and a few with something that might have been relief. The Emergency Federation Council session had been called for the third time this week. Each meeting brought new reports of Korthak forces being systematically destroyed by human military units that seemed to appear from nowhere. What had once been the galaxy's most feared empire was rapidly becoming a collection of isolated, desperate remnants. Ambassador Lopez called out Delegate Zara of the Centauri Republic as Maria entered the council chamber. My government wants to know if Earth considers the Centauri Republic a threat. We've had trade disputes with human colonies in the past. Maria paused, choosing her words carefully. The Centauri Republic has never enslaved entire populations or committed genocide. Earth has no quarrel with species that respect the rights of others to exist in peace. She could see the relief on Zara's face, but also the underlying fear. Everyone was recalculating their relationship with humanity, now that the truth was revealed. The peaceful, helpful humans they thought they knew had been replaced by something far more complex and dangerous. Captain Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of the HSS Retribution, humanity's first publicly acknowledged dreadnought. The massive warship was currently in orbit around the liberated world of Kepler 442b, where Korthak slave camps had been operational for over 2 years. The liberation had taken exactly 4 hours. Status report, Major Clark, Tony requested from his intelligence officer. Major Susan Clark consulted her datapad. All Korthak forces on the planet have been eliminated or captured. We've freed approximately 2 million beings from 14 different species. Medical teams are treating the worst cases, but it's going to take time to undo what the Korthak did here. Tony nodded grimly. The slave camps had been horrific. Beings worked to death in mines and factories, families torn apart, children forced into labor before they were old enough to understand what was happening. It was a scene repeated on dozens of worlds across what had been Korthak space. Sir, called out Communications Officer Ryan Davis. We're receiving a transmission from the Korthak flagship. General Thalner wants to speak with you directly. Put him on screen. The alien general appeared on the main viewer, and Tony could see immediately that the arrogant monster from the Federation Council was gone. Thalnor looked desperate, his red eyes darting around nervously. Behind him, the bridge of his ship showed signs of damage and hasty repairs. Human Captain, Thalnor began, his voice lacking its usual confidence. I wish to discuss terms for a ceasefire. The Korthak Empire is willing to negotiate. Tony leaned back in his command chair. General, 3 months ago you broadcast the execution of innocent beings across the galaxy. You threatened to visit Earth and show us what real power looks like. Now you want to negotiate? That was a misunderstanding. The Korthak Empire recognizes that humans are a formidable opponent. We can reach an agreement that benefits both our peoples. I'm afraid you're confused about something, General. We're not opponents. We're not enemies fighting an equal war. You're criminals being brought to justice. Thalner's expression shifted back toward his old arrogance. You cannot destroy the entire Korthak Empire. We have millions of ships, billions of soldiers. Had, Tony corrected. According to my intelligence reports, you've lost 60% of your fleet in the past 2 months. Your supply lines have been cut. Your communication networks have been compromised. Your remaining ships are scattered and running low on fuel and ammunition. The general's face showed shock. He clearly hadn't realized how much of his empire's capabilities Earth had already destroyed. Impossible. Our forces are spread across hundreds of systems. Major Clark stepped forward. Actually, your forces were spread across hundreds of systems. My teams have been monitoring Korthak military communications for the past 30 years. We know the location, strength, and operational status of every ship in your fleet. This revelation hit Thalner like a physical blow. 30 years? But humans have only been in space for 50 years, Tony finished. We've been watching you for more than half of that time. Did you really think we spent 50 years in space without learning how to protect ourselves? On Earth, President Ellen Hayes stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the Capitol, surrounded by screens showing military operations across the galaxy. Admiral Pete Jackson was providing updates on the systematic dismantling of Korthak military capabilities. Operation Cleanup is proceeding ahead of schedule, Pete reported. Fleet Admiral Chris Thompson's forces have secured the Korthak home system. General Brooks has eliminated their primary shipyards. Colonel Ross's special operations teams have captured or destroyed their remaining command structure. Ellen nodded, but her expression remained serious. What about civilian casualties on our side? Minimal. Our intelligence networks and superior technology have allowed us to strike with precision. Total human casualties across all operations, 47 wounded, 3 killed in action. The numbers were almost unbelievable. Humanity was fighting a war against a galactic empire, and winning with fewer casualties than a typical Earth traffic accident. It was a testament to how thoroughly they had prepared for this possibility. And Korthak casualties? Ellen asked. Pete consulted his datapad. Military casualties are estimated at 800,000 killed or captured. Civilian populations under Korthak control are being liberated as fast as we can reach them. We've had to establish refugee camps on 17 different worlds to handle all the freed slaves. Dr. Mark Johnson, head of post-war reconstruction efforts, stepped forward. Madam President, we need to start planning for the aftermath. Liberating these worlds is just the beginning. Many of these species haven't had functional governments for years. Some have been enslaved for so long they don't remember how to live free. Ellen understood the magnitude of the task ahead. Destroying the Korthak Empire was the easy part. Rebuilding the civilizations they had destroyed would take decades. Back on the Retribution, Tony Mitchell was dealing with a more immediate problem. The Valari survivors that Captain Morrison had rescued were requesting permission to accompany the human fleet. They wanted to help liberate other Valari who might still be alive in Korthak slave camps. Dr. Lisa Kane, now serving as a cultural liaison, had been working with the Valari refugees. Captain, they understand they can't contribute militarily, but they have medical knowledge that could help the other freed slaves. Many of the liberated beings are suffering from malnutrition, disease, and psychological trauma. Tony considered the request. Bringing civilians into a war zone went against every military protocol. But these weren't ordinary civilians. They were the last remnants of a species that had devoted its entire existence to healing others. Dr. Kane, if the Valari want to help, we'll find a way to make it work. Set up medical facilities on 3 of our support ships. They can treat refugees while staying well away from combat zones. The decision would prove crucial in the weeks to come. As human forces liberated world after world, the Valari medical expertise helped save thousands of beings who might otherwise have died from the effects of their captivity. Meanwhile, on Zentara Prime, the political situation was becoming increasingly complex. Some Federation species were calling for humanity to be expelled from the organization for conducting unauthorized military operations. Others wanted to form closer alliances with Earth for protection. A few were demanding to know what other secrets humanity might be hiding. Ambassador Lopez addressed these concerns in a special session of the Federation Council. Fellow delegates, Earth's actions were taken to stop an ongoing genocide. We did not seek conquest or expansion. We sought to protect innocent beings from slavery and death. But you deceived us, accused the Altarian delegate. How can we trust a species that has been lying for 50 years? We never lied, Maria replied calmly. We simply never felt the need to advertise our full capabilities. Earth hoped that such measures would never be necessary. The Korthak Empire forced our hand. Chancellor Vorth, the elderly Altarian leader, spoke thoughtfully. Ambassador, the Council needs to understand Earth's intentions. You have demonstrated military power beyond anything we imagined possible. What do you plan to do with that power? Maria looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from across the galaxy. Chancellor, Earth's intentions remain the same as they have always been. We want to explore, to learn, to help where we can, and to live in peace with our neighbors. The only thing that has changed is that we will no longer allow genocidal empires to threaten that peace. And if other species disagree with your definition of threats, asked the Zephyrian representative. Then we will discuss it like civilized beings, Maria answered. But let me be clear. Any species that engages in the systematic enslavement or extermination of others will face the consequences. Earth will not allow another Valara to happen. As the session ended, delegates filed out with much to consider. The Fleet Admiral Chris Thompson stood in the command center of the HSS Prometheus, humanity's most advanced warship, watching as the last Korthak stronghold finally surrendered. The fortress world of Korthak Prime, which had seemed impossible to assault just months ago, now flew the white flag of surrender from every remaining structure. The war was over. 8 months. That was how long it had taken humanity to completely dismantle an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. The systematic efficiency of human military operations had shocked even Earth's own leaders. What they had planned as a long, difficult campaign had become a demonstration of overwhelming technological and tactical superiority. Admiral Thompson, reported Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as Chris's tactical advisor. General Thalner is requesting permission to come aboard for the formal surrender ceremony. Chris nodded. Grant permission. It's time to end this properly. An hour later, General Vex Thalner walked into the Prometheus's main conference room, flanked by 2 human guards. The once proud leader of the Korthak military looked broken, his arrogance finally crushed by the reality of total defeat. His red eyes, which had once glowed with confidence and cruelty, now showed only exhaustion and fear. Admiral Thompson, Thalner said quietly, I am authorized by the Korthak High Command to offer unconditional surrender. Chris looked at the alien general for a long moment before responding. General, your empire murdered millions of innocent beings. You broadcasted executions to terrorize peaceful worlds. You threatened to enslave humanity itself. He paused, letting the weight of those crimes settle in the room. Surrender is not enough. Thalner flinched as if struck. What do you want from us? Justice, Chris replied simply. Every Korthak officer who participated in war crimes will face trial. Your remaining fleets will be disbanded. Your weapons of mass destruction will be destroyed. And most importantly, every being enslaved by your empire will be freed and compensated for their suffering. The terms were harsh but fair. The Korthak Empire had built its power on the misery of others, and now it would be dismantled piece by piece. Thalnor signed the surrender documents with shaking hands, knowing that he was not just ending a war but ending his civilization's way of life. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Ellen Hayes was addressing a joint session of the Global Council and representatives from across human space. The blue planet that had seemed so peaceful and isolated 50 years ago was now recognized as the center of the galaxy's most powerful military force. My fellow humans, Ellen began, her voice carried live to every human world and station. 8 months ago, we made the difficult decision to reveal our true capabilities to defend innocent lives. Today, that mission is complete. The Korthak Empire has surrendered and their victims are free. Applause filled the chamber, but Ellen raised her hand for quiet. However, our responsibility does not end with military victory. We now face a greater challenge, helping the galaxy heal from the wounds that tyranny has inflicted. Dr. Mark Johnson, standing beside her, activated a holographic display showing the scope of the reconstruction effort. 47 worlds require immediate humanitarian aid. Millions of beings need medical treatment, psychological counseling, and assistance rebuilding their lives. Some species were so thoroughly enslaved that they have forgotten their own histories and cultures. The numbers were staggering. The Korthak Empire had been more thorough in their brutality than anyone had realized. Entire civilizations had been reduced to labor camps. Children had been born into slavery and knew no other life. Some species were down to their last few thousand members. This is why we built our capabilities in secret, Ellen continued. Not for conquest, but for moments like this. Humanity will lead the reconstruction effort, but we cannot do it alone. We are calling on every peaceful species in the galaxy to help heal what has been broken. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had been afraid of humanity's military power now saw it used for protection and reconstruction rather than conquest. The Altarians offered their advanced engineering capabilities. The Zephyrians provided their expertise in agriculture and food production. Even former rivals began working together under human coordination. Captain Tony Mitchell found himself assigned to one of the most important reconstruction missions, the restoration of Valara. The Valari homeworld had been devastated by the Korthak attack. Its cities burned and its people scattered, but the surviving Valari, led by Dr. Lisa Kane's cultural exchange program, were determined to rebuild. The healing centers are almost ready, reported Commander Ryan Davis as Tony toured the construction sites. The Valari medical knowledge, combined with human technology, has created treatment facilities more advanced than anything that existed before the war. Tony nodded, watching as human construction crews worked alongside Valari survivors to rebuild their world. It was slow, careful work, with every structure designed to honor Valari culture while incorporating the defensive capabilities needed to ensure such devastation could never happen again. Dr. Kane approached them, accompanied by Elder Nara, one of the few surviving Valari leaders. Captain Mitchell, Elder Nara wanted to thank you personally for what humanity has done. The elderly Valari stepped forward, her musical voice carrying clearly despite her advanced age. Captain, when the Korthak came to our world, we thought our people were finished forever. You have given us not just our lives back, but hope for the future. How can we ever repay such a gift? Tony smiled gently. Elder Nara, the best payment you can give us is to continue being who you are. The galaxy needs healers and teachers. It needs people who choose compassion over cruelty. That's worth more than any military victory. While reconstruction efforts continued across former Korthak space, the political structure of the galaxy was also changing. The Galactic Federation, which had proven ineffective at dealing with the Korthak threat, was being restructured under a new framework called the Galactic Accord. Ambassador Maria Lopez stood before the newly expanded council chamber on Zentara Prime, addressing representatives from 93 different worlds and species. The old Federation's 12 members had grown into something much larger and more inclusive. The Galactic Accord is built on a simple principle, Maria announced. Every sentient being has the right to exist free from oppression. Every species has the right to develop according to its own values and beliefs. And every world has the right to protection from those who would take those rights away. The new structure included provisions that the old Federation had lacked. A permanent military force led by humanity, but including volunteers from dozens of species. Rapid response teams that could deploy to threatened worlds within hours. And most importantly, a commitment that genocidal empires like the Korthak would never again be allowed to grow unchecked. Chancellor Vorth, now serving as the Accord's first elected leader, addressed the assembly. 50 years ago, humanity joined our Federation as junior partners, seemingly weak and harmless. Today they lead our new Accord as our protectors and guides. This transition has taught us all an important lesson about the danger of assumptions. Fleet Admiral Chris Thompson, now serving as the Supreme Commander of Accord Defense Forces, established the headquarters of Terra Guard on a massive space station built at the intersection of major hyperspace routes. From this central location, human and allied forces could respond to threats anywhere in the galaxy within days. The Terra Guard included not just military units, but also rapid response medical teams, engineering corps for disaster relief, and cultural specialists who could help mediate disputes between different species. It was designed to be exactly what the galaxy needed. Protectors who understood that true strength came from helping others rather than dominating them. Colonel Amy Ross, now promoted to general, commanded the Special Operations Division of Terra Guard. Her teams were responsible for preventing conflicts before they could escalate into wars. They monitored potential threats, provided intelligence to accord leadership, and when necessary, eliminated dangers before they could harm innocent populations. The goal is never to fight another war like the one against the Korthak, Amy explained to her assembled officers. Our job is to make sure that peaceful species never again have to watch helplessly, while genocidal empires destroy their neighbors. As the first anniversary of the Korthak surrender approached, President Ellen Hayes stood once again before the Global Council. This time, her audience included not just humans but representatives from dozens of species who had chosen to make Earth their home. 1 year ago, we made the decision to stop hiding our capabilities, she said. We revealed who we really were when the galaxy needed us most. Today I want to talk about who we choose to be going forward. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the scope of what had been accomplished. 47 worlds rebuilt, millions of slaves freed and rehabilitated, dozens of species saved from extinction, a new galactic government that actually had the power to protect its members. Humanity could have used our military superiority to build an empire of our own, Ellen continued. We could have conquered worlds, enslaved populations, taken whatever we wanted. Instead, we chose to be